Welcome to part 4 of MTC's 4-part series on smart parking management from a system perspective. Too often in our communities here in the Bay Area, cities waste money and irritate their customers by mismanaging their parking systems, providing underpriced and overparked on-street parking spaces while parking structures go empty. Downtown Redwood City, California, started to address this problem many years ago with its smart parking program in its downtown, where they realized that they needed to vary the price of parking to distribute cars better throughout their downtown, charging more on Main Street than they do off-street, and providing free parking at the edge of downtown. Redwood City also realized that it was important to address parking from a customer perspective, making it very easy to pay for parking. So, for example, in Redwood City, anyone can pay with a credit card, and the parking meters will even call you up on your cell phone and ask if you want more time. Santa Monica is another city that has gotten smart about parking, providing abundant information to motorists about exactly where to find parking that's nearest to their destination. And while Santa Monica is one of the highest grossing retail districts in California, it has a very low parking demand rate of less than 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet of commercial. Other cities in the Bay Area, like Redwood City, also try to operate their entire downtown parking system from a user's perspective, combining both public facilities and private lots in a single system through signage, through real-time information, and through easy payment, including taking credit cards. Walnut Creek, Petaluma, and other cities also recognize that walkability is a critical component of their parking strategy because they want users to park once and visit many different stores. Parking also has a large impact on traffic generation. So if you imagine a conventional development arrayed along an arterial, and you have different land uses spread out, and each of those has its own parking lot, and you'll notice the parking lot is bigger than the land use. And then imagine a typical trip of Dad taking Sally to school. That requires a parking space, and then Dad goes to work, which requires a parking space. And then Dad has to pick Sally up from school and take her across the street to soccer practice because she can't walk across the big arterial. And then he goes and does some shopping, and then he picks Sally up and he takes her home. And that's a rather compressed trip, but it's something that many of us have to do every day. And the result of that is not only a lot of traffic, but a lot of turning movements off of the major arterial, each of which has a disproportionate impact on congestion. If instead you imagine the same arterial, but array a grid of streets and align those land uses like conventional main streets in a pedestrian-oriented fashion, and you have them share parking and put that parking behind, then you can imagine the same trip of Dad driving Sally to school, and Dad simply has to park once. Sally can walk herself to school while Dad goes to work. Sally can now take herself to soccer practice because she doesn't have to cross the big arterial. Dad can pick up groceries at his lunch break, and they can both meet at the car and go home. So this is effectively the same exact trip, but vastly different results, including half of the land area, or twice as much economic development capacity, half of the parking, a quarter of the arterial trips, 1/6 of the arterial turning movements, and less than a quarter of the vehicle miles traveled. So a 75% reduction in traffic simply by rethinking how we handle parking in our communities. It's important to recognize again that one-size-fits-all solutions for parking never work, and that all of these strategies need to be tailored to conditions in your local community. There are, however, some rules that apply across all communities, and one of them is the right price for parking. The right price for parking is the lowest price at which a few spaces are always available. Indeed, if the price were higher than that, then you'd have too many empty parking spaces and too few customers coming to your community. If you charge less than that, then all of the parking spaces would be full, and people wouldn't be able to come into your community by driving because they wouldn't be able to find a parking space. It's also important to recognize that the reason we charge for parking is to create availability. And so we need to think about parking payment from a customer perspective. Make sure that people have the ability to pay based upon the sorts of stuff that they've got with them in their wallet and not have to carry around pockets full of quarters. All parking meters should accept credit cards, and they should allow users to pay by cell phone. More information about all of these tools can be found on MTC's website at mtc.ca.gov/parking.